I'm going to do a little live reaction to the best arguments against homosexuality. Compliments of the dear people at Conservapedia, the trustworthy encyclopedia. Of course. Okay, so let's jump right into the top 10 arguments. 1, homosexuality is unhealthy, and it's better to encourage people to adopt healthier lifestyles. This is a straw man argument. Homosexuality is an orientation, at least in the way that we understand it today. It's not a lifestyle. They are talking about a specific kind of lifestyle that involves a lot of sleeping around, that involves maybe some unprotected sex, and a lot of the things that they're talking about that are unhealthy, some of them I would actually agree are kind of unhealthy. I'm not a sleep around kind of person. If someone wants to do that, more power to them. It's not something that I think it would be healthy for me, at least. And if they want to push a more conservative style of living for gay people, they can do that. But trying to equate a culture with who you're attracted to is dumb. Like, straight culture, oh no. 2, it's not pro-life. It leads to various diseases, physical and psychological disorders, and earthly death among those who practice homosexual behavior. Some of that earthly death is contributed to directly by religion. You have Islam, you have Christianity in the past. But as far as the diseases go, the big one, AIDS, didn't happen until the 80s, pretty much. Are you saying homosexuality was totally fine until the 80s? Unprotected sex isn't a good idea for anybody, and STDs happens to straight and gay people alike. 3, it's anti-Bible. There's a lot of debate about whether it's anti-Bible. I'm not going to get into it, but who gives a shit if it is? 4, it's infringing on important freedoms like freedom of religion and speech. I'm so sorry that my existence impinges on your freedom. Of course, it sounds stupid when they say it like this, but obviously what they're getting at, or it's obvious to me because I spent a lot of time around people who think like this, is a lot of gay people are very far to the left and they want things introduced into our law that some conservatives would view as as hindering their freedom of religion and freedom of speech, like the whole gay wedding cake thing. I don't think that anyone who's intellectually honest could conclude that an argument against homosexuality is that it naturally leads to restricting people's freedom to practice religion, because it doesn't. And a lot of gay people are also religious. So 5, it's another leftist political movement which communists support. That is not an argument. Just because someone you don't like supports something, that's not good. You have to provide actual reasons beyond that. That might be a reason to suspect that something's up, but in and of itself, it is not an actual argument. 6, it's promoted far too much by the liberal media. Of course, the media is very liberal, but it's a bogeyman for a lot of conservatives. There's a very, very strong mistrust of the media, which is understandable because a lot of things they do is to garner clicks and attentions more than it is to present the unvarnished truth, which a lot of times isn't that interesting, or at least less interesting than the clickbait. And so if the lifestyle were good, Conservapedia argues, then why would liberal censorship of criticism be necessary? This kind of speaks also to part of the problem that I have with the left, is some people on the far left believe in things like deplatforming and reducing the amount of exposure people have to certain types of ideas, which is the wrong approach. Don't take Alex Jones off of your platform, because the best argument against Alex Jones is Alex Jones. The marketplace of ideas, the John Stuart Mill's classic idea is still relevant for society. So I don't think this is much of an argument. You have to tell me why being gay is bad. You can't just say, the liberal media likes gays, therefore gays are bad. It's the same as 5. 7, people should be and have been able to leave the lifestyle if they want to. So why are homosexuals working hard to ban conversion therapy? Oh, okay. This is beautiful. I love this. I love this so much. People have been able to leave the lifestyle. Going back to 1, being gay is not a lifestyle. Sleeping around might be a lifestyle. Yes. And people can totally leave that. And people can stop having sex. People can vow a life of celibacy regardless of gay or straight. And there's no proof that anyone's been able to permanently change their attractions in any kind of reliable way. Some people who have been touted as shining examples of this had ended up coming out and saying, I still have these feelings. And so evangelicalism and Christianity in general has backed down from the whole conversion therapy thing. This is way more extreme than most Christians would believe today, that they're moving toward the you'll struggle with gay attractions your whole life, but God will help you and it'll all be fine and all of that stuff. As for why homosexuals are not working hard to keep rather than ban conversion therapy is shit. No self-respecting psychologist is going to endorse it because it doesn't have good effects. It has negative side effects. I can attest to this myself. I never went through conversion therapy, but I had someone who would have happily recommended something like that to me, tell me that being gay was the worst sin against God and that no Christian could be gay. It was just impossible. There's an implicit belief, we've demonized conversion therapy so much, but there's still an implicit belief that God will change your attractions in order to be in line with what is holy and what is good. So my last word about this one is, if you're going to point to the deepest part of someone's romantic attractions and say, you need to change that, don't be surprised if someone's upset about that, someone's offended by that. Especially with the way that society has moved toward relationships being something that should be loving. We should marry for love is an idea that started to become popular after I think it's the 1400s, and it's ramped up since then to what we have today with romance movies and all of that. Number 8, homosexuals are wealthier than heterosexuals, so homosexuals don't need any more handouts like benefits for same-sex couples. Ooh, I like that reasoning. Isn't that fancy? Why is a conservative making this argument? They hate things like affirmative action and welfare and other kinds of entitlements for people that do need it. And here they're saying that if people don't need something, then the benefits should be taken away. But they're implying that if they do need these benefits, they shouldn't be. It's like not projecting dislike of gays here. Not at all, by the way. It's not just about benefits. It's about treating people with equality and not treating people differently under the law based on who they love. 9, it's an anti-Christian movement. Why aren't homosexual activists suing Muslim or Hindu bakers for not serving same-sex marriage? This is actually a reasonable point to make. I understand why a lot of people feel this way. And I do think that the left should be harder on Muslims and Hindu people. I think the gay rights movement should be harder on other groups. They shouldn't back down against Christian pushes. They should keep on hammering away. But Islam is also not exempt from being terrible to gay people. And this is kind of also a non-argument, because who cares if it's anti-Christian, because this is a free country. And if someone has a problem with Christianity, like I do, they are welcome to voice that opinion. 10. It's a selfish movement. Notice how billionaire homosexuals are not setting up hospitals as Christians have. Source? No source. Okay. You're not going to talk about Mother Teresa? How a lot of the hospitals she set up were crude and draconian prisons for people to die in, and she has gone on record as saying that the suffering of the poor is beautiful before God. And when she herself needed medical treatment, she went to the top places, she sought the top treatment that Western medicine could give. Again, that's an anecdote, but this is also an anecdote. Billionaire homosexuals? How many billionaire gay people? Oh, there we go. 10 billionaire gay people. Who? Okay, I know who he is. Probably going to cut this out. This requires research, but I don't think the behavior of literally 10 people should be considered to reflect upon all gay people ever, even if it's true. Ooh, bonus arguments. 1, we should believe in real marriage instead. Woo! Homosexual men in so-called same-sex marriages generally engage in sexual relations outside their so-called marriages. Homosexual couples have higher rates of domestic violence. Pathologists have indicated that homosexual suicides are quite common, and leading pathologists have noted that homosexual homicides frequently display brutality and overkill. Okay, I'm going to approach this without actually going and looking at more statistics. I looked at some of the statistics for this and just give different perspective on these assertions. First of all, we should believe in real marriage instead. That is a religious statement and is not an argument in and of itself unless you are also religious. If you are not, that's not an argument. That's just an assertion of your own belief, which feel free to do that. I don't care. Homosexual men engage in sexual relations outside their marriages. This is something that happens if they have an open marriage. And that's something that's more common among gay people, partly because sex is destigmatized among gay men. They've thought about their sexuality way more than most straight people have. And gay people also tend to be further to the left. And people further to the left, in my experience, are more open to ideas like open marriages. It's not something I'm interested in, but they need to discuss why having sex outside of their marriage in a consensual way is wrong. I think there's an argument that you can make there, conservative argument that's reasonable. It's not something that condemns homosexuality on its own, though. It's just a correlation that has to do with understandable circumstances that could change in the future as society shifts. If there's comes a post-gay society where nobody cares if you're gay or straight, and there's no left-right biases among gay people, and they just kind of filter out as their personality would filter out, just like it is for straight people, in general, I should say, then this could become a complete non-issue. This is just an observation based on our culture right now and is not an actual argument against homosexuality. Homosexual couples have higher rates of domestic violence. This is true. This is something that needs to be tackled. I don't know the methodology of the studies that have come to this conclusion. I would have to look into more of that. You need more than a correlation to condemn homosexuality as a concept than this. This might just point to problems that have arisen partly from being marginalized, partly from being shut off from other people. It could describe like a moral disconnect from other people because they've been cut off from the majority. That's all speculation, just like their assertion being speculation that this is necessarily because of things that should discount homosexuality from being acceptable. Pathologists indicating that homosexual homicide are quite common. Yes, they are more common, and there is evidence that it is because of discrimination and marginalization and not the fact that they are attracted to the same sex. Homicide, displaying brutality, or overkill. I don't know much about this. This is something that person told me when he was telling me that being gay was the worst sin against God. He described some horrible murder scene. Oof. Very spooky. This might just be talking about men. I don't know. Two men tend to be more aggressive. Seems like statistically it would be more brutal. I don't know. This needs more explanation before it's any kind of arguing point or any kind of argument. Gay corruption has become too big of a problem in our country and elsewhere. Go on. You have to say more than this before this is an actual argument. This is just gay corruption. What? I don't know what that is. 3. There is no gay gene, and studies of twins prove this, supporting the idea that it is a lifestyle choice. It is not a gay gene. There are things about like prenatal atmosphere that talks about how, or that points to how being gay might not be a choice. Even if it was, it's fine to be gay. What kind of lifestyle you adopt when you're gay is still up to you. This is a non-argument. 4. The homosexual agenda is the wrong direction for our country. That's not an argument. That's what this article is about. Arguments for why it's the wrong direction. Stop. Cease. 5. Many horrific crimes have been committed by men caught up in the homosexual lifestyle. There are so many examples of this that listing here would be futile. There are many horrific crimes that have been committed by men caught up in the heterosexual lifestyle. There are so many examples of this that listing them here would be futile. 6. The homosexual lifestyle increases suicide rate by up to 400%. That's an exaggeration. It's not 400%, as far as I know. Feel free to correct me. And we talked about this being something that's not due to being gay, but due to being gay in the context of society that doesn't treat them very well. 7. States and local communities should be deciding this, not a few liberal activist justices in D.C. This is not a good talking point at all. I don't like how flippant conservatism is about our Supreme Court and the checks and balances between the three branches. It's not arbitrary, and the justices are not nearly as activist as one might assert. These discussions that go into these decisions are extremely long. They're extremely detailed, and they have a lot of legal reasoning in them that goes beyond the intellect on display here. We as a society have moved toward accepting gay people, and the fact that that has happened is part of what has led us to a place where the Supreme Court would rule in favor of marriage equality. There's a lot more I could say here, but I'm just gonna leave it there that I have misgivings with this attitude. 8. Churches have rights too. Yup. 9. Disordered conduct is the wrong direction for individuals in our nation. Disordered conduct. Being gay is not a disordered conduct. Ask any medical professional, and they will tell you that it is natural. And even if it was a disordered conduct, it can't be changed. So what's your solution? What's your solution? Praying the gay away? Pass. 10. Ancient Romans committed many homosexual acts, and as a result, for violating the Lord's wishes, the Lord struck down the decadent empire of Rome until the Christianization of the Roman Empire. Yeah, once Constantine converted, the Roman Empire was totally saved and is still around today and didn't fall after that. Aside from the historical confusion here, what? This is a classic example of echo chambers in action. That kind of confirmation bias where you take what you want, gay is wrong, and you project it onto something else. Ancient Romans also committed many heterosexual acts. And you're not going to say that struck down the decadent empire of Rome. If you were to study history, you would see the actual tangible mechanics of Rome's fall. And it wasn't the Lord striking it down. There were actual historical things that brought the empire to an end. This is the same kind of reasoning as preachers screeching that gays bring earthquakes and hurricanes and natural disasters upon people. It's inane, it's petty, it's cultish thinking, and it is not a good argument against homosexuality. So this was great. I really enjoyed going through this article. Would go through again. I'll probably do some more. Before I go, we've got the cycle of violence. Apologies, excuses, tension builds, abuse takes place. Well, I'd like an apology from this website for having no intellectual rigor, but I'm not going to get that. So we're just going to leave it there. If you want a good lull, I highly recommend Conservapedia.com. Very funny, 10 out of 10. Would meme again. See ya.